Open your eyes to a Christmas surprise. Open your eyes to a Christmas surprise. Open your eyes to a Christmas surprise. Open your eyes to a Christmas surprise.
White House warns that it is out of money and nearly out of time to aid Ukraine. Well, no, Sherlock. This has been a long time coming, and most people are kind of cheering this on because people are tired of money going elsewhere. Not to mention, most people are smart enough to see that there are multiple conflicts around the world, all of which the United States has also said that we would back them up on. All of this does not just come out of the air. This money comes from us, the taxpayers. And if it doesn't, then it's pretty rare. So again, they're telling us that they are out of money. And most people saw this coming. It says the White House has said that it is out of money and nearly out of time to provide more weapons to UKR as it tries to ward off Russia's invasion. Again, they talk about it like they're warding off an invasion of our own country. Again, this is another country, and there are many countries that are going through things that morally deserve a bit more, unless Congress acts to approve additional funding and support. The warning, issued on Monday in a letter to congressional aid leaders, it laid out how the government had already gone through about 111, get this, 111 billion dollars appropriated for UKR military aid. The historian says West can break Ukraine stalemate with more military aid. He's saying that, yeah, if we give them more money, they'll win. No, that's not how it works. And no amount of money can change the fact that they are not going to be equal as far as military size, unless we give them our military or other people end up jumping in. It says, quote, I want to be clear, without congressional actions by the end of the year, we will run out of resources to procure more weapons and equipment for Ukraine and provide equipment from U.S. military stocks. Okay, so stop doing it. Why are we there in the first place? That's just my opinion. What's yours? We're going to cover a lot of stuff today. This being kind of the most infuriating and most obvious, but there's a lot going on. We're going to cover all of it right now. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, so yeah, most of the comments, people are said that it's sick of sending money to other countries. Somebody said that their son was number 58 at the food pantry, and they were out of food by the time they got there or something. I've heard of a food pantry. Is that like the food bank? I think that's what you mean. But I think there's a store called Food Pantry, but maybe I'm tripping. But as far as if 58 in line for a food bank and they're out, I believe that. We saw over the last weekend, there were people lined up outside of Costco's like it was CV back in the day. Folks in different mods were talking about it in our mod chat, and they were noticing all around that people were lined up for these places, hour-long wait for places. Now, I'm sure not everywhere saw that, but we did see it here. I know that there was a 2.5 hour wait to get into a local Costco. And specifically, I think it was a big day around the whole white lungs thing. And then Here's another thing. I thought about it. That was the last day that we heard about stuff. That was the last day that we saw major headlines, and then there was like the 4-hour waits at Costco's and stuff. Nobody covered that, and then we didn't hear anything for 4 days. So we just covered that over on Marfoogle News, our sister channel. That it's weird. There's been nothing about it for 4 days, and before that, they said, "Oh, Ohio's got it, Massachusetts has it. It's going from Europe to here." I mean, this is it's a scary thing because it affects our wee ones, and it's pneumonia's scary on its own. So I just think it's crazy right now. Plus, the market is going crazy. The gold has now gone up, which most people understand that when gold goes up, that's a sign that the dollar is not exactly solid. So there's a lot happening right now, and it's getting freaky. But when people in the chat, of course, talking about this, people are tired of it. They're talking about it like he's explaining to them like they're supposed to go, "Oh my gosh, you're right. We gotta step up." Why? Do any of these people have any connection with UK other than all of the politicians at the very top? They have tons of connections, and it makes you wonder, how many connections do all of us have? And I'm not trying to be insensitive. It's like, why are we helping their country? They aren't even a constitutional republic. Like, what are we doing over there? Why? They say the only reason, and they keep falling back on this, is because it's for world security. Because they say that if they take them, then they're going to take Europe. Then they're going to take the world. It's the Red Scare, right? And Putin's not a good guy, but he's not. It's in my opinion, we don't need to be sending more money over to Ukraine. But again, I'm not alone. There's a ton of people that agree with me, and we're kind of sick and tired. And it's more so the fact that we're seeing our own prices here. All of that money, $111 billion, if they put that back into the system here or put it back into something, that maybe we wouldn't be dealing with inflation right now to the point where it is $100 to walk out with one grocery bag in most places in the country. I don't know how it is everywhere, but here you spend $100 at the grocery store, you get absolutely nothing. You get the essentials, and I mean like milk, eggs, butter, bread. $100 is like the bare necessities. Okay. And that is absolute madness. $100 used to get you maybe a quarter of a cart, a half of a cart. I mean, shoot, if you go back years, yeah, but we're just talking about 3 or 4 years ago, what it could get you. Now it gets you about a 25% of what you used to be able to get. And that is infuriating. So we're going to talk about that. Remember, we have a full bibliography over at marfooglenews.com. You can find every single article, tweet, video, picture, document that we're going to share here today. That way, nobody can say that we're sharing something that's this or that. Anybody that looks, you can go to our website and find the full bibliography of all of our sources, from Reuters to Schleps to everything in between. Again, make sure to go over there and check it out. It's got all of the stories, and you can read it later. You can go back. And if you can't time out an hour and a half today, you can go and read the news. Let's bring in my co/internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Fugle fam. I'm doing just fine.
Now, a couple of people to thank here. I wanted to see if I could keep my screen open here. Why isn't there a way to do that anymore? Let's see here. Okay. There were a few people before the show. Bible Talk 777. A few people hit. I guess it's 6 months. That's huge. So thank you guys. I appreciate that. New members, thank you. I appreciate you. Now I can see if you do end up doing that. Before I had no way of doing that. So they just came out with something so I can actually see when you become a member. So thank you guys. We appreciate your support. And I apologize. We haven't really been able to talk about the members. So thank you. And then Neil Nelson, thank you. Gifted 20 memberships. That's really awesome, Neil. Thank you. And again, thank you for last week's support as well. I appreciate you. Tara Williams, Dank Bear, thank you. Ghostly FPV. Nice to see some FPV people in the houses. I still have not done FPV. first-person droning. I've done regular droning, but not FPV. That's really cool hobby. All right. So let's. So Dex, first of all, we're out of money, and then now NATO chief is warning us of bad news. We called this from the get-go. We told you 2, 3, 4 months ago that they're preparing us for them to get out. We showed the comments from around the world of people saying that, yeah, they just want some sort of exit. What's crazy is now it's not like we're going to get out of a conflict and all be in peace. Now we have other conflicts either going or about to pop off, like Israel and Hamas, but now we have North and South, which we'll talk about in a bit. What the heck?
I mean, the writing's been on the wall. And I guess they've just been slow rolling this whole idea that they're backing out. Either they're trying to find a last call, last ditch effort to generate some money that they can funnel back into the UKR project, or they're just going to pull the plug. And that's probably the bad news. And he wasn't very specific, and he didn't give any other details. He said, we just need to prepare for bad news coming out of UKR. And, the only big victories we've seen are some of these, small secret incursions where they've taken out railroad bridges and tunnels and stuff. That's interesting, but that's not enough to win a conflict. And they haven't made significant progress in pushing lines back any further. In fact, Russia's sort of just holding the line, and that's all they need to do. They know they just got to sit tight, and the money will roll out, and this event will be over. So, that's what and it's sort of why we look at everything else that's going on, and we'll talk about more stuff that may be popping off around the world later in the show. But just like the Middle East, it's just like, let's move the Warhawks from one theater to the next theater to the next theater.
Exactly. And it's like, now are we going to be sending all of our money to Probably. Watch. I bet that's not going to even be the bigger thing. Then North and South Korea. South Korea, we're very close behind. We're placing our nuclear submarines, and they're talking about even giving them nukes. One thing is crazy is, like, maybe they should give them nukes. Maybe then we wouldn't have to be any part of it. Give them a few nukes, and then if South Korea doesn't, or North Korea does anything, they can handle it themselves. I know most people are against nukes in general, but what is a way that we can help, a one-time help, and then just be done? Like, we're not going to help you anymore. There's a reason why they're not going to give Ukraine nukes. There's a reason why Ukraine is not even in NATO. Dex, go ahead.
Well, they learned the lesson on UKR. They thought everybody was so, happy with the flags and the thumbnails that they could just tell everybody everything we were sending because it was a feel-good kind of thing. They're not doing that when it comes to Israel. That's super secret what we're sending over there. It's super secret how much money we're spending. They try anything they can to not have to tell us what's going on because they realized it burned them in the UKR event. They got too happy on that one, thinking they could get away with it.
Yeah, I think going forward, they're going to realize we're just, but I bet you they could do the same thing though. They could tell us we're sending all of this if they get a good feel good country, like, oh, we're helping charity, right? With this, you would think that would be what it is, since they are saying, they bring in the wee ones into the whole Israel Hamas thing all the time. It's on both sides. It's the main argument that the wee ones are involved. And it's on every video. It shows them holding the wee ones, And then Chanel Bevaliqua, speaking of, it says, so the pet dog virus turned out to be nothing. The monkeypox, nope. Let's pray the China children thing is nothing as well. Gotta tune into India and Germany news. We won't speak of it. So yeah, and then, like, and by the way, Chanel Bevaliqua, thank you for your support, but you might also, like, understand this, and I've wanted to point this out. Do you feel like India has one woman reporter and that's it? I'm dead serious. Like, I've seen different news channels and they all have the same woman. I feel like maybe, I know that there's WION or WION, but there's like 5 other channels and she's the main person. By the way, they do catch the stuff. I thought that the Indian news was kind of funny at first, because it's like they came out of nowhere and people started watching it because they were, like, showing stuff that really we wouldn't say here. they would flash new banners. Like they would change their screens. You know how like new commercials and things that they change the screen every 3 seconds or whatever? They would do it every second. It would just be like somebody with a mic and then somebody on a thing. And then it would be like news, blah, blah. And then the banners down below would go by so fast you couldn't read them. And I think they were so hyper like, oh, Americans have no attention span, that the editor was like, no, we got to change it every 1 second. Otherwise, we'll lose them. That's how stupid they are. I think that's what happened at the board meeting. They're like, no, you got to change it every second. And it was comically fast. It would go, hi, traffic. Yeah, good. It's good. Bye. And then it was like, Biden did this. Okay, good. Trump did that. Good. I got to screen record some of the older videos on that news channel because it was hilarious. I was telling Dex about this like a year and a half ago. It was so fast. It was comical. Survival Living says, much love and respect, brother and fam. Hey, nice to see you. And you've been rolling, doing your own thing for a while here. Thank you so much for the support, and nice to see you. And then Bible Talk 777, thank you for gifting a membership. Neil Nelson, thank you as well. And then Bible Talk 777, member for 6 months, says 80s fans, check out Doken's new album. Dawkins or Dokens? Dokkens.
Fucking.
I was born mid 80s, but I don't. What is that, Dex? Dawkins.
It's a band. Rockin' with Dawkins. Dawkins.
It's rare nowadays that I feel young. So thank you. Now everything that comes out, I'm like, oh gosh, Chandler just died. Like, scary. Nick at Night is like shows from 5 years ago. It seems like, I don't even know if Nick at Night exists, by the way. And then Sellafield nuclear site hacked by groups linked to Russia and China. And mind you, take everything with a grain of salt. This could be total BS, right? And the only reason I say I'm not trying to defend China or Russia, but it seems like the media has these patterns of kind of scaring you for certain reasons. I do believe that we are going to have a grid down and a hack of some sort. I believe that that's the most likely out of all the scenarios. That does not take life directly, and every country that is our adversary has this kind of capabilities. Not to mention, after SolarWinds, I feel like that was the setup. They're telling us about hardware-related hacks and all of this. But the reason I say this is because it is so much of the last 3 weeks we've been seeing hack after hack after hack. And it says the UK's most hazardous nuclear site, Sellafield, has been hacked into by cyber groups closely linked to Russia, China, and the Guardian can reveal. The astonishing disclosure and its potential effects have been consistently covered up by senior staff at the vast nuclear waste and decommissioning site. It says the Guardian has discovered that the authorities do not know exactly when the IT systems were first compromised, but sources said breaches were first detected as far back as 2015. So this is a really good point to think about. Dex, do you remember when SolarWinds was? Was that 2021 or 2020? Was that during CV when that happened? I'm trying to remember how old that is. Mainly the point is it's a few years ago.
It was 19 and 20. Like it was in September 2019. An attack was not publicly discovered and reported until December of 2020.
Because I've gotten messages and DMs saying, "Oh, well, CyberWinds happened so long ago. They've already fixed and patched stuff." So what the banking industry is being told, and I know because someone who used to own a credit card processing company now is one of these higher up people at the banks, very high up. They have been warned that they have to hire extra people all the way until March, and they are at high risk, at the highest risk. There is no like yellow, red alert, but if there was, it would be red alert for the banking system right now for hardware related things. And all of the top Fortune 500 companies, these are the companies that you are seeing get affected. Now, that includes global companies. I don't know if this nuclear company is on any of these lists, but this could have been from SolarWinds. Either way, they say as far back as 2015. So it doesn't matter that it was in 2020. That could have been the day or the event. In fact, it was over 6 months. They didn't notice it until like 4 or 5 months in. They were inside of these companies and inside of their systems for we don't even know how long, but we know it was at least 6 months. So for 6 months, they're digging into hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of companies, including all 5 of our military branches. And they could have been doing backdoors into everything. And that's what's so crazy about the SolarWinds hack, is that it could have set up future hacks for years and years to come. This isn't to scare people. This is the reality of what's going on right now. So with all of these breaches and these things that are happening, this says that they were trying to cover it up. I believe that. I believe that they would. But do we know if this is because they are mentally, training us to realize that these hacks are coming? When experts realize sleeper malware software that can lurk and be used to spy or attack systems had been embedded in Sellafield's computer networks as far back as 2015. So for almost 8 years, going on 9 years, they had these kind of weaknesses. And it is still not known if the malware has been eradicated. That's what's so nuts. Dex, go ahead.
Look, this is exactly what we've said will happen at every one of our utilities. If you don't think this is sitting there dormant, it is. We have our head in the sand. That's what they're looking for. And it's hard to find something that you don't know exists. It's easy to find something. It's easy to find the SolarWinds hack and patch it. That's easy. What you can't find is what they did for an entire year when that window was wide open. They came into the house and they set mouse traps far off in the distance and stuck them in between walls and hid them under the sofa. And if you don't go finding all that stuff, and you can't find all that stuff because it's really hard to do. And that's the thing. And a lot of them are invisible.
Yeah, so this is where it all starts coming together. This is why my friend said that they are looking at hiring all of these people to check their weaknesses, because there are doors that have already been put back in. This is the plot out of Dragon Day. It's happening in real life. And friends and family can tell you you're nuts. And honestly, over the last 5 years, if they're still on this tip that they don't think something big is coming, then just let it go. Focus on yourself, focus on your own family, focus on what you can learn right now. Because when this happens, these are the same people that are going to be knocking on your door. They're going to be the same people, and you'll get vindication, but are you going to want it? This is what sucks about all this. If we get true vindication, like nobody's at the point where nobody's going to say this is fear-mongering, when all the lights go out and everything happens, it doesn't matter. Vindication, I won't know. I'll know in the darkness. I'll be sitting there going, I told him. Hopefully people listened, because I'm not saying it's the end of the world. Yes, people have said it's the end of the world for a million years, but we're not saying it's the end of the world. It's the end of this system. This system is going down the crapper. And if you can't see that, you're blind. It's happening right now. There are so many risks that are now up, just skyrocketed, that I don't know why people aren't prepping. And I'm not talking to most of you, because most of you have a pantry full of food. You have a plan. You have some sort of plan with your family. You might even have a neighborhood protection plan in place. You may have already gotten your second day going and you're good. But there are so many people still, and you know this because all the people around you that are focused on this social media trend or this or that, or they're talking about this at the water cooler instead of all of this. And that's by choice, and that's okay for them. But it's not going to be okay for the moms and dads, the matriarch and the patriarchs of the family, the people that have 5, 6 kids underneath them, and they did no prep. That's the sucky part, because you can be responsible and even put 2% of your time into prep. You don't have to make it a life hobby. Again, most people make it a life hobby, but you don't have to. You have to have a basic plan for when this stuff goes down. And most people do not. They want the opposite. They don't think about it at all. This is all going down right now. And people want to call it fear mongering because they're afraid. That means that they are afraid by what you are saying. If they say you're fear mongering, they are afraid of the words coming out of your mouth. They're afraid, not you. You shouldn't be scared to say it. And that's the problem that I had for the first 2 years. I didn't want to scare people. But at this point, you shouldn't be scared. You should be desensitized to this. You should know that this is happening. Because if you look at what's happening right now, it's impossible not to see it. Guyana will stay alert. By the way, Venezuela connected with Iran. Iran connected with China and Russia. All of these kind of stones are fitting into the puzzle. Venezuela did that vote. So they actually said last week, they said, hey, we're going to do a vote to see if everybody approves of us taking over our neighbor, Guyana. And now Guyana is saying, well, we're going to stay alert because that vote went through. They approved it, and they said, yeah, we should go take over our neighbor, invade our neighbor. It says Nicolas Maduro, the same guy, if you remember, he almost got taken out by a drone attempt. And it says Assembly's President Jorge Rodriguez Elvis Hidrobo Amoroso, head of Venezuela's National Council, attended an event at the CNE. And essentially what they said is Guyana will remain vigilant after a Venezuelan referendum rejected an international court's jurisdiction over the territorial dispute between the neighboring countries. The international court said, no, Guyana is its own place. And it says bilateral tensions over the potential oil-rich Essequibo region rose in recent weeks ahead of the 5-question referendum, which Guyana unsuccessfully asked the International Court of Justice to bar. It says the U.S. State Department said on Monday it supports a peaceful resolution for the dispute and that the issue could not be solved by a referendum. Venezuelans on Sunday backed the rejection of the ICJ jurisdiction over the dispute and the creation of a new state in Essequibo. Analysts have said that the vote was an attempt by President Nicolas Maduro to gauge his government's support ahead of the 24 vote day, right? The ICJ has prohibited Venezuela from taking any action which would change the status quo in the region, though a court ruling over the overall dispute could be years away. Maduro has assured Caribbean countries that he will not invade the region, Jagdeo said, but Guyana will not let its guard down. The leadership in Guyana cannot just take assurances from Maduro government that they will not invade the country. So essentially, people approve of this country being invaded. They're saying they won't. But do you not see some sort of event, some sort of regime change happen in this area, and then resources switch hands? I could see this happening and being at least a week of distraction. Dex, go ahead.
Well, here's what's also being reported that's really interesting is that most people didn't show up. So it's also a big sign to Maduro that the support's not there because they didn't even show up. It was abysmal turnout as they were referring to it. So now what we don't know is what does that really mean? Is that the true, at the end of the day, if only the people that support him showed up and voted this way, then that's one sign. But the fact that so many people sat out and said, no, we're not going, I think it's more of a bad sign for him. I don't know. What we really don't know is whether or not this was more of a let's try to get people to show up and see if I can, get them to turn up to the polls over something that would be very, controversial or specific to the land that people would be behind potentially. And he wasn't able to drum that up. So on one hand, it's not good for him politically. On the other hand, maybe they got the vote to do this, but maybe that was never really what they were going to do because were they really going to invade Guyana? And that's what's up in the air right now is like, will he actually do that? And I think that's something, there's two sides to this story and it's really interesting.
Yeah, does he feel confident now? Has anything exchanged between Venezuela and Iran? Did he get something, a new toy or something? Something doesn't sit right here. And Venezuela is also only think about this, Dex. What if they amassed troops there in Venezuelan attire, but nobody made a big deal out of it because they cover it as, they're going to take over Guyana? Now, I don't know how close they are, how long it would take via other travel, but I know it's 30 minutes by jet. If a fighter jet left Venezuela, it could reach Florida in 30 minutes. So I don't know what if they got some sort of forces ready for the U.S. in some future event, but everybody go, oh, they're just amassing forces to take Guyana, or they speculate that's why. When really it's Cuban, Iranian, Russian, and Chinese forces dressed up, something. I don't know, just a thought. And it might not be possible, and some expert out there with a PhD is going, that's not even possible. It wouldn't happen. I don't know. I just thinking out loud.
1,500 miles by boat, 68 hours at 22 knots.
So less than 3 days. I don't know. Is that doable? Is that something that could happen? Is that rough water? I don't know what the actual environment is if you went from boat from Venezuela. But not to mention, we're talking about Cuba. A lot of things are happening in Venezuela and Cuba. And people should pay attention because, again, Cuba, we just found out that China and Russia are both have their projects going on in Cuba. Why? They're doing surveillance projects and they're building a training base in Cuba. China is. And then Russia has some sort of surveillance thing. Like, what the heck is going on? And they're, I would think, almost interchangeable because China's really in charge. Before we move on, if you haven't already, make sure to go check out Energy. Energy makes the best solar generators on the market, in my opinion. Again, these are modular, so they work like Lego. You can actually change them. You can alter them to do whatever purpose you really want them to be. If there is some super cool thing that some other solar generator has, most likely this one does too. The reason why is because if it doesn't have something right off the bat, there are different mods. So you can add the things you do want and you don't have to add the things you don't need. It has the Flex UPS rapid charger, which charges it from the wall, each battery in about 45 minutes, which is incredibly fast. 1,000 watt-hour battery it can charge in about 45 minutes. That's insane. And the best part is it's a dual thing. It's a UPS charger as well. So that means it turns the system into an uninterrupted power supply, meaning you plug your fridge into the generator and the generator into the wall. You can just have it sitting there. It won't hurt it or degrade the battery to have it flowing through it. And then when the power goes out, that will tell it to immediately turn on. So basically a backup generator. This is really cool too because you can expand it up to 96 batteries, or you can keep it small and portable with anywhere from 1 to 5 batteries in a stack and take it with you. A lot of people have messaged me as far as a lot of folks, because I suggested that use it for construction. A lot of folks are already doing so. They bring it to a job site. They have power on hand. They can pop out a drill or charge all their portable devices. Especially when you don't have an extension cord somewhere. So this has a lot of daily uses that you can use it for, but really a lot of folks are getting this because if SHTF happens, if everything hits the fan, you are going to want to stay quiet. This is silent, even with the fan full blast. If you have this thing fully loaded out to its very brim, it will have a fan start going to cool it down. That fan can't be heard from three blocks away, let alone 3 feet away. In the other room, you wouldn't be able to hear it. Again, this can go inside. It doesn't have any nasty fumes, and you don't have to deal with fuel. Now, there's pros and cons to gas or power, but one of the biggest pros on this is that you can get unlimited power from the sun. You team this up with some folding solar panels. It is a completely portable system that is incredibly easy. You just plug one cord from the solar panels into it. If you have more than one solar panel, you daisy chain them just like Christmas lights. So it is super, super easy. There's mods, there's alternate builds of this. And again, now they have the tactical, which is now, again, the one that was designed by the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratory. This one's going to be shipping out to the Army. They just won the SBIR Phase 2 contract. So these are, again, in high demand. They have heaters built into the batteries, steel reinforced frame. Again, they have 1,500-pound latches, water and dust resistant. So if you want the best of the best, this is the way to go. And if you can't afford it now, put a little bit aside every week and save up for one of these. These are really amazing. Again, they will come in handy, not just for the end of the world, but for a storm or anything else. One trip where you negate going to a family member's or a hotel when something happens is, again, going to be a priceless moment. So go to marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY. And again, that's going to get you a huge discount, and it's going to help our channel at the same time. You're going to love it. Again, they are in a super high demand, so be patient. If you want to get one, I would highly recommend ordering it yesterday. All right, marfooglenews.com/energy, INERGY, and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Dex, what is going on in Cuba? Like we were just talking about, now there's a retired U.S. diplomat supposedly working as a secret spy.
So apparently, this person has been working for potentially decades as a secret agent for the Cuban government, allegedly, according to the U.S. government. So they have filed a criminal complaint in federal court in Miami. They're trying to prosecute him going back to 81 as he worked his way up through the agency, that he has apparently been meeting with handlers or specific people from the spy agency out of Cuba. So not something he should have been doing in his regular job, obviously, at least not without the knowledge of it being done in an official capacity. So when that's happening, that's typically a sign of some form of espionage or coercion. So yeah, it's been going on for quite a while, and they didn't know. So he has been working specifically in Latin American affairs in multiple roles in the State Department, including as the ambassador to Bolivia until 2002. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting areas that he has had access to, and probably funneling information to Cuba.
Yeah, so something is definitely going on with Cuba, as we've seen that there's all this weird stuff going on. Let's do a quick roll call. Thank you everybody that has made it to chat. The Naughty Kitten, Drops Family Garden, Tara Williams, Dennis, Kathy Piana, Gail Firestorm. Just do a general state or province where you live, just so you can find other Foogle family members nearby. And again, it's a great thing to have in common right away. Briar Patch, nice to see you. The Real, let's see here. We've got American Argonaut. Top of Indiana, Jammer 1, what is happening? Trust No One. What was that from? I didn't. Missouri, we've got Marley Barbie from Nikki J from England. Dustin Royal from Champaign, Illinois. North Carolina, we've got Justin Bram. Susan Big, New York, not the city. And New Mexico, Warrior Angel, what's happening? Nestor, hey. Charles May from Missouri. Lots of folks from Ohio, thank you guys for being here. Liz Bauer, Southern Arizona. Thane McEwen from Northwest Ohio. We've got Ultra Noetic from California. Also a lot of folks from Cali here. And Little Rock, Arkansas. Nice to see you, Connie. Nice, whatever, forever local from Washington. And Aunt Jenny, the Salt Lakers. I was never here. Sandy from Georgia. Show 'em Big Mo. Janet Ruth Haynes. South Central Missouri. Tara, nice to see you. See, I'm seeing a lot more folks from Missouri. A lot more people from California and popping up. It was actually, when I first started this, not too many people from California. I think Ilea brought them all. And then Minnesota, I think meant Minnesota. And then VA, Kimberly Watcher, Salty Army, Ohio, Real Gorillas. Knoxville, Tennessee, Smoky Mountain Bushcraft. Dennis, nice to see you. And then Laura Griffith from Kentucky. And Briar Patch, it's always good to see you too. Again, normally, like, it's crazy how many people from the Midwest we have, but then you also see the folks from New Zealand or England or Brazil. A lot of them don't pop in, but they comment on the comments afterwards. If you can, make a live show. I don't know what time it is there, though. I'm sure it's like, some crazy time, or it's during work hours or something. But try to pop in and make a show if you can. Set your alarm. Wake up at 2 a.m. or something. I don't know. Though, because East Coast is like, late. So it's probably daytime in all of those places. And then A top U.S. general warns everyone should be worried about war with China. Well, it's yeah, it's like it's going to be up until that point. There's going to be a majority of people that just don't think it's going to happen. It says General Charles Mountain Jr., the highest-ranking officer in the U.S. military. Again, the highest-ranking officer in the military warned in a Sunday interview that everyone should be worried about a war with China. Brown is the 21st and current chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, having taken over the role in October following the retirement of General Mark Milley. This is the replacement of Mark Milley, the guy who said he would call China if T-Man was going to launch a nuke. He would give them a heads up. Oh, by the way, guys, we're going to surprise attack you. Don't worry, though. I'm the one who pushes the button or the one who gives the order, so don't worry. I won't do that. In fact, I'll tell you so you can surprise attack us, as long as you have me on a private jet to the copy of Paris, right? It says, during an appearance on Fox News Sunday, Brown was asked by host Shannon Bream about growing concerns over a war between the United States and China, citing recent Reagan Institute polls finding that 51% of Americans view China as the biggest foreign threat to the country, and 74% are concerned about such a conflict breaking out within 5 years. In response, Brown first stressed the strength of the U.S. military, while also conceding that everyone should be concerned about such a conflict with China, specifically to a regarding a possible invasion of Taiwan. Says, quote, first thing I would tell them is they ought to be very proud of their military. We're ready for whatever comes our way or comes out. Brown said, at the same time, we want to be so ready that we don't have a conflict. And you know, as we're here, it says peace through our strength. Our strength that we demonstrate as a military will bring that peace. And that's always been our thing, is to be the biggest, baddest to the point where they don't even mention. You got to be that 7'5" guy with muscles growing off of muscles as the bouncer that just nobody even tries to do because he's just such a big guy, they don't want to deal with it. Dex, this is huge. This is the General Mark Milley's replacement, the highest ranking officer in the land, telling us that we should be worried about China.
Well, yeah. So at least he's not telling us he's going to warn them, so they don't have to worry about us. That would be the former's job, apparently. But yeah, another sign. It looks like this is what we've been preparing for all this time. He also says, whether it will or may not happen, either direction, we should worry about it. But still, the fact that he's putting that out and putting it in that phrase is, meaningful. And he knew it was going to get picked up. They knew they were going to run with this headline. They knew everybody was going to talk about it. So that's part of the program, so to speak, right? Let us know that we're getting ready for this big conflict.
Yeah, so they're not, and I'm sure this was pre-planned. Like there's nothing they say on an interview like this that's not probably approved. And then the U.S. Navy ship intruded in South China Sea waters, China says. So on top of everything that's going on, China has done this before, too, because they believe all of these areas are now China. They have even put out a map I don't even know if it was last year. Within the year, less than a year ago, they put out a map. I think it was like 4 or 5 months ago. That map shows where they claim is theirs. Now, that map doesn't make any sense to any other country. All of the other countries around them say, no, that map doesn't make any sense because they have their borders protruding way past where everyone thinks that they actually protrude. So they are in an argument with, I would say, dozens of countries around them, because they are claiming all of this sea that's not supposedly theirs. And they're claiming everything around the Spratly Islands, which they built those islands out of nothing in some cases. Some were just a patch of grass that was popping out of the water. Then they took special machinery and special boats to trawl the bottom of the ocean for sand. And these special boats that worked like I could only compare like a cruise ship sized wet vac, took the freaking sand, piled it up until there was so much that they could pack it down and put airways, and now they have fully operating bases. They have, in fact, forward operating bases all over the Spratly Islands. And that, because of that, they say that they've claimed all these other areas. But they have also claimed areas, if you look at the map that they put out, they've claimed areas that are now conflicting with Japan. They're going far, far off, and they're conflicting with all sorts of different lines, and border lines, and I guess what is the C, it's not the IDIS. What is that called? The 200 miles outside of somebody's country.
It is
Is it the
something aeronautical identification zone.
yeah, that's
I can't remember what the A stands for.
but essentially that's where once you step into that or you fly into that, you have to identify yourself, because that's technically, that's their area. They have claimed. Go ahead.
Air defense identification zone. ADIS.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was, but I thought that there was like something for the water, but I guess it just covers all of that. So they're now saying, these are things that we'll see, and I just wonder if the U.S. is, of course, going to say we're doing everything along the lines of international sea and law, and that's the thing. They've said this a million times, but where it starts mattering, or mattering, I don't think that's a word. When it starts to matter is when they start taking action, which who knows if they ever will, but they are definitely puffing their chest and saying that you violated these rules. And it said that they illegally intruded on Monday into waters near the Second Thomas Shoal. That's, again, something we've talked about for a while now, a site of a hot territorial dispute between China and the Philippines. That is where the boat that is washed ashore that people live on, Filipinos live on, so they can claim that part of it. They have a full-on living arrangement there, and there's constantly somebody living there so that they can claim that area. They've inhabited it. And then militant rocket hit base linked to Israeli nuclear missile program. Dex, do you want to go over this?
Certainly. So, this is new news about an old event. And I say old, it's not that far, a long ago. But when the event happened, the big event that kicked off this latest conflict in the Middle East back on October 7th, when that happened, there was a rocket fired from the Strip, supposedly, that actually targeted and hit a site that carries, allegedly, Israel's nuclear missile program. It didn't actually destroy any of that, but it did apparently cause a fire, and the fire got awfully close. And it could have been a big deal if it was, made it a little further. So that's what's coming out, at least today, at least that from this article and what they're talking about. I know there's a lot of speculation as to what's really there and if they have that type of capabilities. Not, I know most people believe they do. But that's what they were claiming, is that this location was part of their nuclear platform, and it was hit, and it was a fire, and it almost made it to the storage facilities with the sensitive weaponry.
Yeah, so we'll update if anything further changes, but someone else said it most likely is them. And then before we move on, we're going to talk about North Korea. So we're going to go over, there are 3 different key points that we're going to talk about with North Korea, and they're saying that it's just a matter of time. Before we do, I do want to remind you that, again, if you did miss out on the smaller unit, during Black Friday, they did the $500 off. I would highly recommend checking to go see if there's still the $500 off on the other units, because they were kind of overwhelmed by Black Friday. Everybody that did want to go get a machine they sold out of the small machines. So if you haven't looked at Harvest Right, it is one of the most coveted freeze dryer machines out there. As far as during CV, these things were impossible to get. They were like Tickle Me Elmo in the 90s. But again, this is one of the best machines out there for freeze drying, and is a very easy machine. Overall, again, they have one of the greatest products out there. Go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. You can freeze dry your own food, and it is way cheaper to do so if you're doing it yourself. You don't have to, of course, worry about the price of food. You can go and if you want to be thrifty, then you can go that way. If you want to go quality, you can go that way. When it's pre-packaged, most of the cost is in somebody else doing the freeze drying. Again, that is a huge portion of it. As far as they say, it's about a quarter of the price or a third of the price at the very least, compared to pre-packaged freeze-dried foods. Freeze-dried foods have just absolutely skyrocketed in the last 3 years. So if you want to do your own, you can. It is a very fun hobby, and a lot of the folks that get into it really get into it. So go to marfooglenews.com/freeze. And again, you can get $500 off on certain models. I would make sure that is still current, again, when you're watching this video. They were $300 off for Black Friday. They did $500, and then they extended it for a little bit just because they ran out of the units that people wanted. So you can get a slightly bigger one at a bigger discount. All right, marfooglenews.com/freeze. All right, and then North Korea warns war with the South a matter of time after key pact scrapped. So many people just kind of poo-poo North Korea because they don't believe they'll ever do anything. Whereas if you look at the white papers, and there are a lot of people I really respect on this issue, and a lot of folks that I do believe are good people in our military that have said that this is one of the biggest threats out of all of the countries out there. For some reason, North Korea, they see as one of the top threats. Is that because they are so, such a hermit crab nation? Whatever. Is it because of their ties with all of the other countries? I think that they could be the tool or the hammer that China or Russia uses to go after us. If we are to believe any of what they say that North Korea is starving and that the country is falling apart at the seams, and it's barely, what it seems when you go there, that the stores are all filled with, pop-ups of food in the stores, then maybe they are on their last legs. But who knows? They have a whole black market thing going on there where they are probably doing thousands of illegal activities that you can do nowhere else in the world, because they're already sanctioned for everything. They don't care. The actual government does all of the illegal stuff openly. But now North Korea's state media on Sunday warned that a physical clash and war have become a matter of time after scrapping a key military pact designed to reduce tensions with the South. The 28 agreement, which aimed to reduce the chance of accidental military escalation along the high militarized border, fell apart late last month after Pyongyang breached international sanctions by launching a military spy satellite. So that same spy satellite that they tried to launch twice and it failed, even Japan said that there will be consequences. Do not launch. They launched it, and now it's up in the sky. They have now since said that they have taken photos of the White House and that they've taken photos of the Pentagon. We don't know if they're full of crap or not, but obviously they keep covering sort of around this, right? So is something really going on? Are they changing our perception of what's about to happen? Are they shaping it? I don't know. And then Dex, do you want to talk about how it says that interference in its satellites would be a declaration of war?
Certainly. So some more big words coming out of SK. So they're talking specifically about anybody interfering with their ability to launch, or even the destruction of their existing satellites, or anything that may happen to it would be considered a declaration of war. We've heard them make these types of statements before. So we do take it with a grain of salt, but at the same time, given all the escalations, I mean, just in the previous article, they had announced that they have now not only filmed the White House, but the Pentagon and U.S. and British warships, military bases in South Korea and Japan. They published that they've done that. They've also moved and relaunched, I guess, their artillery on one of the islands that is up against the border that had been closed for a while. So that also has been an escalation from North Korea. So given all these escalations, one has to give a little bit more credence to some of the verbiage they're using. So when they're coming out and saying, hey, don't undermine or do anything to our satellite or to our satellite program. Makes you wonder, are they going to launch more? Makes you wonder if there was a problem with the prior launch, and when it failed, if it was a failure or if we did something or someone did something to stop it. And it just didn't, we didn't do that this time. I don't know. But yeah, that's what they're saying.
Ilea, if you can stick around, not you don't have to stick around for the Shoucher later, but I will show you a couple of the kittens. Sounds like you got 2 new kittens of your own. Or if you like kittens at all, then you have to stay until the end of the show. That's bribery right there. You will get to see cute kittens, which are about to go find forever homes. Actually, let's see here. Somebody said this. Made a good comment about North Korea, but it went like this and that, and then I forgot it. Little Kim wants to make sure he's still on the Christmas list. Oh, somebody said and then somebody said he looks up to Dennis Rodman. Yeah, that tells you what kind of guy he is when his role model is Dennis Rodman, the bad boy. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh because the North Koreans are so crazy. Like anything negative about Kim, they will like go after. So, somebody said buffering. So Brian Barbie, you said buffering. It's probably because I'm talking about Kim and his crew of like 4 dudes and a computers are like, how are we gonna get him? Just watch. Somehow my house explodes or something. But somebody said buffering. Can I ask Brian Barbie and anybody else that has buffering problems, do you have ad blockers on? Because a lot of folks are telling me that because they have ad blockers, this is the whole big thing that's going on, and why this platform was trending is because they're in a war against these blockers, and that they're supposedly slowing down video speeds if you have that active. And some people agree with that. They're like, well, yeah, if the whole monetary thing of it is watching ads, and then the ads go towards not only the company but the creator. So I would just wonder, how many people have ad blockers, and have you noticed that stuff slows down? Is that true? Even from the way that they were reporting it, it was like it was a fact. So I don't know if that is the truth, but I always see people say buffering, but then 90% of the people have no problem at all. Kim blockers. Annabelle, I have 6 rescue dogs, no cats. Nerd. Hey, that's awesome. No buffering. Blue Boy, thank you. Lori Stack, Paul Saul, and I honestly assume you'll know when I know there's buffering when everyone in the chat says that. And there's been a few subjects that we have touched on over the years. Dex and I were talking about this the other day. There's a few subjects that absolutely anybody says something about them, it's like boom, we go buffering. So I know that that does exist. At least that's my opinion. And then the North Korean leader calls for women to have more children to halt a fall in the birth rate. What in the heck? This is just odd. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said it is a duty of women to halt a fall in the country's births in order to strengthen national power, state media said on Monday, as his government steps up the call for people to have more children. But supposedly they're starving, right? And he's telling them to have more children. Pretty irresponsible if you ask me. Or maybe they're not starving. Maybe they do enough black market work and sell enough legal stuff and send their citizens elsewhere that maybe they're doing well. Who knows? We get lied to on a daily basis by every piece of media. So maybe it makes the world feel better to hear that this rogue nation is doing horrible. Think about this. Just throw aside anything you ever learned and just assume if there was a rogue nation that didn't basically follow any of the rules of the rest of the world, didn't jump in on every crazy worldwide thing that happens, do you think that country would be treated badly? And I know North Korea is actually bad and Kim Jong-un is actually bad. But what if it was like a place like Sweden or something, didn't play along with anything? Do you think they would be treated, worse off than everybody else? And I understand that like Switzerland or something that's completely neutral. Do you think that they get treated differently because they don't participate in a lot of stuff? Mind you, they do actually participate in stuff like the money thing, the Swiss bank accounts. They've got ties, and that's why they can be neutral. But do you think that a hermit nation basically doesn't get any help because they also don't play the game? And maybe it makes everybody feel better that these rogue nations don't do well. Dex, go ahead.
Or maybe they know they're getting ready to go to conflict in the coming years, and they want to get the births happening now, because once that starts, that'll continue the lull, because nobody's going to be in the mood, so to speak.
Well, it seems like it's a pattern of all these different countries are telling people to have more kids. Didn't Russia just tell people to have 6 kids or more or something?
Yeah, he said bring it back to 8. He said like our great grandparents used to have 8, and we need to bring that back. That's what Putin was saying in a speech.
And didn't China just tell their population to start having more children?
Yeah, they dropped the laws that they had, and then they said encouraged increasing the count because their population is starting to decline.
Do you guys see a pattern? All of our adversaries are telling their women to have more children. Is that because after the war they're going to have a lot less men? Whereas the United States is like, be a butterfly. I don't know. We're doing the opposite. Las Vegas police, FBI foil reported terror plot involving Islamic State. They say that the LV police, the LVPD, and the FBI thwarted a potential terror plot involving a 16-year-old on Friday. During a news conference, the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department officials detailed an investigation into a terror threat on a social media platform. The image of the threat was shown on LVMPD officials. I'm not going to read this. Well, peace be upon all brothers who see this. I am here to announce that I will be starting lone wolf operations in Vegas against enemies of this, and I ask you to make for victory. I am a supporter of the IS, and I will make sure that the in this city know it. So, and lone wolf and all of these things, these are keywords that probably popped up. That's why I was trying not to say them. And the post included an IS flag. And I like how it says "and words" in Arabic. Like the writer didn't take the time to translate the Arabic words. It's just like, and it had some words like, pencil, lampshade. Maybe it would be important to figure out what the words were, Anyways, yeah. Lady dice. I don't know. It's just words. But as far as this goes, here's one thing with all of this going on, I could see that we're already seeing it in Europe. Somebody posted like their distaste. They'll post on either side of the spectrum here, and they could post a meme. And now in certain places, you're having police show up at your door for sharing your opinion. Now, what this person posted, that does seem pretty directed. Like, I guess how many of you kind of understand where they came from for this? But it doesn't explain some of the posts that they are showing at people's doors for. Some of the posts that people show up at their door for are just absolutely insane. And we only know that because there's a bunch of viral videos of police showing up because people are posting memes in different countries, right? Or is there something going on? Is there a bigger thing? Did this 16-year-old get recruited into something? Leonard McLay, thank you so much for joining the Foogle fam. Thank you for joining the Mafia and getting yourself a badge. I appreciate that. Thank you. And then dozens of troops suspected of advocating overthrow of U.S. government, new Pentagon extremism report said. The first thing, and I'll just say the first thing that went through my brain is Ganda. Like just right when I first read this, it was before I read the actual article. But the only reason I say this is because I feel like they're trying to make this case that the worst threat is inside our country. Okay? Which it is, but it came from somewhere else. It's not Chad or Bob. It again says an annual Pentagon report on extremism within the ranks reveals 78 service members were suspected of advocating for the overthrow of the U.S. Gov, and another 44 were suspected or engaging of supporting extremism. Now, what I wonder is what their definition of this is. Like, did these guys go, yeah, it would be great if I could, sock what's his face in the face or something, right? Sock the prez in the face, or oh yeah, I'd love if they took that guy out or something. What if these guys are joking as these guys are trained soldiers? Their job, they've just been basically turned into a killing machine, reset and retrained as a different person. Maybe what I do know is I've talked to a lot of ex-military, and they joke about the most disturbing things. At least they've got some pretty dark humor that goes on because, heck, look at they're turning, really disgusting, horrible things into humor because what are you going to do when you're serving and you're doing all that stuff? You try to make light out of the situation. Dex, go ahead. All I'm saying is I think that they're trying to make a case for, the threat being us, right? United States citizens. Dex, go ahead.
That's like 120 people that want to overthrow. What about the hundreds of thousands that are military-age men coming across the the southern location there?
Millions.
Wouldn't that be a little bit more worrisome than 120 people? That seems like a rather small number to make such hay about.
No. They need to declare that this is this, and that. But yeah, let's just not do a report on the 5.3 million people came over. And by the way, they found what would be 12 out of 120? Would that be 10%? They found 10% of real people in one day crossing over, and those are the ones they caught. Last couple days ago, they found 4. That's what, like 3% or something. So they're finding that in a day, 10% of that in a day, crossing the border, and they're worried about that. I don't know. How much damage could 120 guys do if they're really, or maybe if they got 1,000 people, right? Doesn't make too much sense. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Matthew Daily 2.0, thank you for subscribing, and Solutions for Humanity, thank you as well for subscribing. I appreciate you being here. Thank you guys. Everybody that walks in the door, I really do thank you for being here and for giving us a chance. Neil Nelson, again, thank you. Lucy Jake, Neil Nelson, this whole week, thank you. Fred Smith, Stephen McMahon, Richard Koschmeider, Mitch Mouth, Mystery School, Kathy Lee, Wages, I hope you're doing well. And Rip, I don't know if you're still here, but thank you for modding tonight. Same with Aaliyah. And Woman of Wonder, I hope you're doing okay. And Trinity, thank you for showing up this week. Supply chain ransomware attack causes outages at over 60 credit unions. Dex, I mean, has this been almost every day we've covered a big attack like this?
It sure does. And when it comes to things like your banking systems, and in this case, these are smaller for the most part, but it's credit unions, and there's a lot of people that use them. And when you take 60 of them and you add it up, that's even more. So yeah, this is pretty much a site that I think we're just going to have to continue watching, because we're going to see these attacks come left and right as these vulnerabilities continue to be exploited by our adversaries or groups sponsored by our adversaries. whether it be, hacktivists that are just doing it for attention and a cause, or whether it be those that are employed specifically to do harm against us under the moniker of conflict or war, even though it's not officially declared. We all know we're under one, or we feel like we're under one when it comes to things like cyber, especially from Russia, China, and others, including North Korea, which has done quite a bit. So yeah, this attack against multiple credit unions, caused them to shut down, caused them to turn off websites, caused them to have system downtime, things like that, where they would tell their members, "Hey, sorry, you're not able to get to your stuff. You can't get to your maybe you have to go into the branch, I guess, if you want. Hopefully, they're not totally incapable of servicing your money, but yeah, you won't be able to do anything online."
And here's the thing: there's less and less faith in the banking system, which we'll just call from now on FANK. There's less FANK. That works, actually. There's less FANK nowadays. And that's why gold is going up. That's why people are pulling their money out. And we can't all just run to the bank. We'll really screw everything up, because if they did cause a bank run, the whole thing would just collapse, because I don't think they have enough money to give us. If everybody tried to pull out their money, I don't think they have it in there. And that's what we saw with previous events with these banks. But this also further shows you exactly what we got information of the banks and dealing with hardware issues, and they're all getting hit right now. That's what's so freaky about this, is the information we shared with you the day before the Federal Reserve hack. They got a warning. All of these banks got a huge warning. They said, you need to hire more people all the way until March. You need to physically protect yourself. You need to check your weaknesses. You need to keep checking your weaknesses. You need to check for backdoors. The U.S. government, all of these places knew that something happened. Maybe they saw what was accessed during solar winds. Something is going on. This is why people are prepping. This is why people have a backup plan. You don't live your life scared and dig a hole and put your head in it. But you also need to have some sort of backup plan for if this stuff goes south. And then 5 bodies found days after searching for U.S. military aircraft in Japan. The Osprey that went down, witnesses said that they saw one of the blades on fire. We covered this. They said that U.S. Air Force said on Monday that the bodies of 5 crew members had been found alongside the wreckage of the CV-22 Osprey. And it went down during a routine training exercise last week in southern Japan. Remember, Japan said that we don't want any more Ospreys flying above us for now, I guess. And it says 2 crew members remain unaccounted for, and the remains of one had been discovered on Wednesday, the day of the crash. Over the weekend, the Air Force identified the airman Staff Sergeant Jacob Galliner, 24. The body of Sergeant Galliner, the young father who went by the first name Jake, had been found by the Japan Coast Guard. Which my prayers go out to that family. Again, it sounds like they had a couple babies, or at least a baby there. I'm so sorry for that kiddo. And then pieces of the fallen aircraft had been located on the ocean floor on Wednesday, less than a mile from the Japanese island of Yakushima. So now they're saying essentially, I believe, is that all 5, right? That is all 5.
There's 2 unaccounted for.
Oh,
there was one who you just named was the first day. They had recovered him immediately, and that's the one we reported on. 5 found now, and 2 still unaccounted for.
Wouldn't it be a miracle if they found 2 alive or something? Yeah, prayers out. Keep positive. Because they have had people survive longer. I just wonder, if they have. They probably have. I know they have some sort of boat or inflatable boat in those things. What if they're floating around in a boat, surviving off of pulling fish out of the water or something? There's been crazier stories in real life. Shoot, didn't one guy decades ago survived for like a month or something nearly. Either way, craziness. By the way, if you want to protect yourself against an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, if you don't know about this, I would highly recommend doing some research on the risk of EMP or a CME from the sun. A CME is a guaranteed thing that will happen. It's a matter of when, not if. Hopefully, it happens after we get everything hardened and the whole grid is fixed, right? But right now, we sit as our grid is still ancient. It is still vulnerable. And if our grid got hit by a massive EMP or a CME or a Carrington level event, our power could be out for anywhere. They say really right now, the estimates now are 2 years. It used to be 6 to 18 months and 6 to 24 months. But now with what's happening, they're saying a minimum of 2 years. The EMP task force has commented on this. If you want to protect yourself, your own cars and vehicles, your trucks, your boats, anything that rolls, you can most likely get protected by an EMP shield. Or if you want to protect your generators, even your energy, you can get one of these for. Or your home, you can go do so at marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is the same company that just got huge contracts over the last 5 years with agencies like DHS, DOD, and the DEMSO team. So they're preparing themselves. They're not preparing the civilian infrastructure, but they're preparing the military and the government infrastructure. Think about that. If you want to protect yourself so you can keep going to get out to bug out or get home to bug in if you work far from home, then you can put one of these in your car in less than 10 minutes. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, and green to ground. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP and save $50 off with the code MARF and help our channel out. You are supporting our families. And of course, you are supporting the growth of this channel, which, again, it has been a struggle the last 5 years. So thank you, everybody that goes through these. We only pick affiliates that we absolutely 100% believe in. So go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. And thank you for also sharing our show out or even just pressing a like or commenting after the video. Thank you. Dex, do you want to tell folks how to get to the bibliography and all of the crazy stuff going on?
Yeah, sure. Head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or hit that show notes link down below in the description. Matter of fact, all the links you're looking for are down below in the description. If you ever need them, it's easy to get to. And there's a great image that Adam posted on his Twitter of a frozen airplane. If you guys want to see that, I think it'll show up if you scroll down there. But
well, it's
where it is.
Say that they were headed to the conference on global warming. The jets headed to COP28, and they show them frozen. This is a Jacob Israel tweet, and there was actually, I almost tweeted it twice because there was a video really explaining exactly what it was, or a caption. But yeah, according to Insider More, jets headed to the COP28 were frozen on the runway in Munich. So hold on. I didn't want the sound to go, so hold on. Let's see here. Now let's not do that. So yeah, just to show you just a brief second of this. Let me do see here. Yeah, look, this is on their way to the warming. And they said that the jets were frozen to the runway. Irony, right? And I know the supporter go, well, that's because of this and this. I get it. It is ironic, though. They were frozen to the thing, headed to the warming conference. Anyways, back to you, Dex.
That's all I got. That's funny.
It's freaking hilarious. All of the rest of the links right there at your fingertips. Make sure to utilize it. Again, a lot of work goes into it. So if, well, it's not like a use it or lose it. We try to make sure to remind you that it's all a lot of extra work. So please utilize it. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you. And thank you, Jay Ellisy, Lord Andrew. Thank you, Chanel Bevaliqua. Really, really appreciate you guys. And you know what time it is. First of all, drop an M in the chat for all of the wonderful mods. Go over to marfooglenews.com/friends to find out where they are. You can find all of their wonderful channels right here, marfooglenews.com/friends. From their TikToks to Chance's books over on Amazon, to CJ Blaze's great channel. And I heard, by the way, Alish, Alish hasn't been around in a while, but Alish, I heard that the prayers for you are working. So that's really, really awesome. And I'm super glad that you are doing better. So again, if you want to continue to pray for Alish, that would be appreciated as well. Lisa R. Hall, thank you. Rip Curl Readiness, RGL Harris, Ilea, Trinity Red or Blue Pill, Hi Ho Kermit the Frog here. And thank you, Wages. You guys have a wonderful night. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It is now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shoutro. Or no, dang it, I screwed it up. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a barbecue. I gotcha. Shish kebab. Steve. It's a Chicago. A schmitzmoo. A shoutro. Thank you, Dex. I love you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
Christmas surprise. Open your eyes to a Christmas surprise.
All right, let's make a new one. That one I just did right before the show. Let's try to do a somewhat listenable one. Okay. Which most aren't. So buckle up, people, like Jacob Israel would have said. Give me some inspiration. You guys are my muse. Thank you, everybody that's here. Definitely got to make one for Chanel Beverlyqua. Beverlyqua. Liqua. Chanel Beverlyqua. Enduring. Ooh, informative and fun. Perfect. How we do cats. Meow. Meow. All right, let's play here because if Ilea is still here, I gotta get. I'm on the way back, lonely. All right, we'll be right back.